Magandang dia. Happy Saturday. I hope you had a good week. Mas espero ko po si Mang totoong bon si Mang produktivo, whatever that means to you. Mita espera ko baalang tabong awi and wherever you're tuning in from, whether si eta ding auto, via radio, na podcast, online, on Facebook, on YouTube, riba Kulafam's website. Mita espera ko you are having a good Saturday so far. May nota patatay si mga pasama na mabisa po so take a little break where espero ko po sa tunan din si Maoti sa itong very interesting episode. But I am here. Hi, and it's September, which means it's my birthday month and a lot of awesome people's birthday month. Anto, yes, I am so excited. Pasobra ko. Summer is almost over. Technically, the dia 22 si September. Misako, seasons not really change na Aruba, pero once we get into the Burr months, misako sa fin di ayan, the vibes just instantly change, and I am ready for the vibes to change. So, without further ado, may karabisadan kina may awesome sponsors for allowing me to talk about whatever I want to talk about. So, thank you, obviously, to La Roche-Posay, to Total, and to Gain. I appreciate you so much. Si acaso po no por sigue escuchándonos live as you go por taputa no sa baja furibo auto, you gotta leave your house, whatever, do not worry, no está live arriba YouTube y Facebook di Kulafam, YouTube di Sincere Carolina, anto just rewatch it afterwards or whenever you have some time. Easy po un more podcast listener type of person like myself, por tune in arriba ja Mars, anto arriba po just escuchale, so do not worry. Without further ado, mitbulaga nos beautiful guest of today introduces herself or reintroduce herself, because I mean, if you watch Sincere Carolina or listen to Sincere Carolina, is akin no tong persona desconocí. This is, however, a topic that we have been wanting to discuss for a while, but scheduling it wasn't able to happen before. Pero ahora que me quiere any time really at the appropriate as soon as I papi di Jelle. So without further ado, Nicole, can you please introduce yourself and tell us who you are, why you're here today?
Hola, lovies. I'm Nicole Godett, aka Empowerment Queen. I am a social worker. I am a mom. I am an entrepreneur. I am a model. I am
an
everything.
Author?
An
you
author.
Forgot that.
Yeah, I forgot because that's recently added to my resume.
True.
Yeah, I'm an author and everything nice.
I love that introduction. Mita haya prat so oro kumita traje weekly flyers lang. Like, how do you what do you want me to write on there? And because I know you and I know people, right? Y'all so modest, right?
Because I think it's difficult, even though you know what you stand for and who you are. Sometimes I juggle in between, being cocky. So I don't want to be cocky.
Okay.
For me, to some extent of the word, my vibe have to explain who I am.
Okay.
You gotta love me. You'd be like, okay, I love that girl with the purple hair. Mm-hmm. Give me some of that.
Yes. Also, I'm assuming it has to do with identity, right? Different spaces. It's like you use different identities, but you're no matter what, all of those things at all times, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
So, mom guilt. Can you maybe shortly explain what that means? No sabi papi yung papi English awe. Please bear with us. Pero what is it? Anto it's a phenomenon kumita kere mas y mas, thank goodness. Hinata talking a little bit about, on the social zeitgeist, on social media and stuff like that. But awak ko hinata doon nun tiki mas atensyon riba how we feel as people, anto, how we experience this thing called life. Anto, turns out, mom guilt is a very common thing,
it's
yet
a real thing.
It's hard to start a conversation.
It's a real thing, but it's like a secret. It's like a huge, big, dark secret that no one speaks of. And coming back to what you asked, I don't really go into big definitions because sometimes you get big words and then you still cannot identify with it. So for me, I would say mom guilt is when you're being just too hard on yourself for whatever and whenever, because I think that it differs per person. the way I guilt trip myself as a mom may not be the way that someone else does it. So then if I just say, you know what, mom guilt is blah, 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 and then someone would be like, nah.
I don't feel that.
That is not me. But somewhere, somehow, we still do it. And I think most of the time it's unconscious. Like we just, we get ourselves in a mode or we think something and it's not the reality. And I think that is it. When you're not being in the here and now as a mom, that's where mom guilt grows, and it can actually, debilitate you in a certain way if you do not grasp it. You can find yourself in the depths of a pit and never realize that it's going on. It's the same thing like, when you have mom go through postpartum depression. It's like it's somewhat linked. Of course, the depression is way worse, but it's somewhat linked. But because in the beginning you feel so foreign, so strange, so weird, it's like, no, but how is it even possible? This is not supposed to be happening. This is supposed to be the best part of my life. Why am I feeling this way? And then you prolong it, and then you get into that dip, and then that's where sometimes you just get lost.
And I think it also has a social component to it, right? Because like you said, it might differ per parent, and it's called mom guilt, and we're gonna use that word, but please, by all means, insert parent where we say mom, because dads feel it too. I think that society has put a lot of pressure on moms in particular, which is why moms in general feel it more. However, it doesn't mean in any way that dads cannot feel it.
Exclusively for them.
Exactly. Or any form of primary caregiver, because that's really what it has to do with. So just that clarification. But a lot of it has to do with society too, right? Because when we were chatting about this topic, we mentioned going back to school. That is, there are periods during the year where I think it gets heightened, even for people that generally might feel a little bit more calm. Let's put it that way. But times like vacation times, right? Going back to school, because a lot of comparison is going on. Because of social media, you also see a lot of more stuff. So all of a sudden you're seeing, back to school videos, how to prepare a lunch, and then parents are like, I can barely do a sandwich. Now I have to cut it up, and what, right? So those are periods where as a society is just heightened for everybody, but it can linger. So can you maybe, let's talk about examples of this period. So we just had summer vacation. School started, so there might be some people still struggling with whatever happened or didn't happen during summer vacation with back to school, and now that they are adjusting to this new schedule. Can you maybe explain what are things that might be weighing heavy?
By let's start with the summer vacation. Before we even get to the back to school hustle and bustle. So now you have 6 weeks that you have to entertain your kids, and I don't want it to sound like, oh, it's a job. No, but especially if you're a working parent and you do not have the liberty of getting free, you have to now pull 2 shifts in a way, because then you have to work full time, come home, and then still try to be maybe fun. Try to see if you can find a movie, maybe create a movie day or a play day, something, so that your kid can have some type of vacation fun, because maybe we don't say it, but that they are aware that, hey, I have free time, and this is the time when people travel, and this is the time when I have to be out and about. To make matters worse, they get a book.
Oh, right.
They get a book with 101 activities. And I am speaking it from the depths of my heart, because I had to have numerous discussions and fights with this book. I dislike this book because I will get my daughter Ma, let's see what activity there is today. Whether I have the funds to do it, whether I have the energy to do it, whether I have the time to do it. That is not being questioned in that time. It's Ma, look, we got to do this. And it's I can't. And then you will get that sad frown, oh, okay, next time. and then the next time come and it never happens, and that it can go on and go on and go on. That is just, again, I'm speaking of parents that maybe are working full time, but then you have those who don't have the financial means to do anything other than what they're already struggling to meet.
Exactly.
And then you are being constantly pressured. And again, we're not blaming our kids, because kids are going to be kids, and we love them and appreciate them. And as a parent, you want to go above and beyond for them. But then do you imagine how you feel in that moment that you have to tell your child, you know what, I cannot afford it. And sometimes we are not so forthcoming and saying, you know, I cannot afford it. So then you create some type of narrative around it, like maybe not now, maybe next week, but you know deep down it's not going to happen. So in that conversation with your child, you know, you comfort your child at that moment, and he or she is comforted, but then what about you? Because now you got to go and ponder, like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? I'm not making it. And then my kid is going to realize that I'm not making it. And maybe what are other mothers thinking, or other parents thinking that, you know what, hey, this one is not doing that. And, you know, I mean, there's only $5 to go to a cinema on a Sunday. Why can't you make it? And so a lot of things jumps in your mind in that moment, and then it can keep replaying and replaying and replaying and replaying. Not talking about vacations. Like I'm gonna take me, because I love to take me as an example, because I can speak of myself.
Yes,
you know?
yes, of course.
I'm a child that traveled every year. Every year. Every vacation was like, you know what? I know standard, it's travel time. So for me, I'm like, the moment I get a child, it's going to be travel time. Well, life happens.
Turns out traveling is really expensive.
Life happens.
Yeah.
And then maybe you can find something, and then something happens or something comes up, and then it's no longer possible. And then for me, it's like, but I'm being a hypocrite, because, hey, I was on that plane for sure. Like the first week out of school, it was just, my mom was a teacher, so you know, just rounding up whatever she has to do. And for the rest, we know we're gone. And then here I am now, wanting to, you know, be that. And again, the we put so much pressure and the perception and we how do you say that again? See, this is me finding that word.
The word, you're finding the word.
The word. You know, trying to fit that hole that my mom left. Like, you know what? Okay, we're supposed to be traveling. We're supposed to be doing family fun stuff. And the reality is, I don't have time. And maybe if I have the time, I maybe don't have enough funds to maybe hit a Disney World. People, Disney,
it's really expensive.
It's very expensive.
It's very expensive. Yes.
You know, and
Yes.
it's like, okay, no, let's book a cheap flight.
Yeah.
Okay, but then you're not thinking on where you're gonna stay, and then the park tickets are crazy. But then you have to eat, and then you're over there. You want to do a bit of shopping, and that can add up very quickly.
Yep.
You know, so all of that is going on, and then while you're mid in that little mini crisis in your mind, then you get like deals. Oh, you have to get sneakers, and you have to get bags, and you have to get uniforms, and then you have to get all these type of things. And it's like, hey, but I'm still trying to get over not being able to fly out, not being able to fulfill this book.
Yeah.
The book of anxiety, I call it.
The book of us. You know,
sorry.
When I first saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. Like, and then I went through it, and I was like, so I remember, I think it was like 2 summer ago. I want to say it was like 2 summer ago. We told our youngest niece and nephew, so like mine and my husband's, we're like, you know, circle some stuff that we could do together.
It was a trap.
Exactly. And I was going through the book, and I'm like, these, and it's not just like, you know, some of them are maybe good price, but then you have to be on top of it. Because if you don't call like the day that you get the book, they're fully booked. Like the, you know, sciencey activities or like the free activities. All of the free activities go on day one. Like it's crazy. So, you know, and I was like, oh my gosh, like how do parents, and I felt that, right? Because
we are not okay.
overpromised, and I am really bad at that. Like, primintita mas kudebe, right? I am very big on that. Like if I say that I'm gonna commit to something or I'm gonna do something and then I don't do it, I also, you
feel
know,
bad.
Yeah, I feel bad about it. And of course I'm supposed to be like cool, and we're like the cool aunt and uncle, and we said we're gonna do some fun stuff. So then, because all of like the free things were over, then we had to go for like the paid stuff, right? And then it's like, oh my gosh, we gotta manage expectations, right? Like, so I can imagine that
expectations is a killer. It's a killer because you expect so much of yourself, but then again, others expect the same. So then it's like that double expectation that you have to meet, and sometimes we
and the
don't
parents
meet
double
it, or
down,
we
right?
can't meet it. I was talking about just when you're scheduling. I like to schedule, and a lot of times I tell people, you know what, let's schedule ahead. Like with this interviews, we didn't have time. We schedule ahead. But how do I know that when that time comes, I have the energy to do this? And then
hard.
sometimes we are not aware of it. So then you end up pushing yourself, and then sometimes you're not the fun mom in that moment anymore, because I'm like, I don't want to be here, actually, because mom have tantrums too. Sorry, I'm gonna say this out loud.
You get overwhelmed.
We have the right
too.
to have tantrums.
You have bad days too.
So then again, but we already made plans. And one thing about children is not always they want to be understanding, and not always they have to be understanding. So it's like, but you promised, and then you see the face, and then it's like, And I mean, of course, I believe in communication and transparency. So you can say, you know what, mom is not feeling it. I'm really tired. But you can't say that all the time.
Exactly.
Even though I try to do it as much as possible, because I am tired. And then again, it depends again what type of parent you are. Like if you have social anxieties and all those type of things, that adds on. Because sometimes, again, being a social worker, I love it. But then my social battery goes to zero real quick. And then I just want to lay in bed, and I don't want to see the rest of the world.
And that's something that is not necessarily easy to explain to children, right? And like you said, communication is very important, but they are not supposed to, fully grasp it yet. So you are gonna try to communicate, and you are gonna try to explain things. But I also want to add. If I compare like what you said, right, going every vacation abroad, like that is something that my parents did for me too. Now I'm like, how? Because like it's very expensive, but
I mean, like they set us up,
right?
Did you have to work with money or something?
Yeah, I know they work like really hard. I understand that, but I'm like, whoa, like, and you really need to plan them, right? Because it's not like, I mean, if I think no, but a difference, I do want to add a difference, and that is something that my dad also mentioned, when he was on this episode. He genuinely believes that parenting now is much harder because you do have the component of like the internet and social media. So I can say, up until like I want to say like late teens, or not late teens, like mid-teens, we don't really have like smartphones. And then when we got smartphones, it's not like the smartphones today. So like we had like Blackberries, so then you would chat with friends.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then eventually
we had dial-up.
And then like I think it was like my maybe not senior year, like a year before, like my junior year in high school or whatever, we got Instagram. But then not everybody had it, so you didn't post like yes, I had it. We had Twitter as well. So then you would share a little bit more, but it wasn't as much. So and it's like if your friends had smartphones as well, then you would like stay in touch with them in between. So I would like maybe go on vacation and stuff, and I didn't really know what my friends were up to, like unless I would call them at their house, right? Because you would call your friends at their house, and they wouldn't pick up, or they would let you know before the vacation, like they might be traveling, and then you just wait until you see them in the next school year, and then you just tell them your highlights. Which is nice. That can also obviously create pressure, because some kids might be like, whoa, your highlight is such a big highlight, right? But it was still, I feel, much less intense, because now kids are seeing like live what other kids are doing. And comparing like what they are not doing. Right? And it's, I mean, I feel it. I don't really like summer. I don't like the idea of traveling in the summer. I understand, like when I was younger, when you have kids, you have to travel when they are off.
Summer is not a traveling time.
No,
Sorry.
it's hot
crazy. It's
and
chaotic,
it's crazy. Unless I'm going somewhere cold, then I don't want to do that. But I mean, I don't even like it. And I was looking at people's posts, and I know they're like someplace in Europe or whatever. I'm like, I know it's hot, and maybe their hotel doesn't even have AC, but their pictures look so nice, right? Like, like they're probably sweaty, and I know the people around them smell funny, but I still feel it. So
You
I
still
can
feel like, what if?
like I also want to be with the smelly people, right?
You know? Having a sweaty summer.
Yes. So I can only imagine, kids are also watching that type of content with their friends, like on, social media and stuff. And then possibly, depending on their age, they might understand that they are not going to be doing the same that their friends are doing. Maybe not this year, maybe not ever, for their life as a child, because their parents simply cannot make it. A lot of kids are aware of that. Other kids might be like, they don't yet grasp, or they haven't had the opportunity to have that conversation with their parents of like, why do they get to do all that stuff and we don't, right? So I think that also might bring up like very odd, or it's not odd, but what might seem like odd conversation starters, where you really have to talk about, social inequalities and, different socioeconomic status and, how different jobs mean different things.
But
and
let's be honest, we don't like to have such conversations.
Not even with adults. Now imagine having to like chew it down.
So then it's just, it remains unspoken. It just remains there, and sometimes we avoid it, or we know exactly how to work our ways around that conversation, and then it never happens.
Yeah.
And then it never happens. So, it differs. And I mean, I'm not here to focus on the negative, but I wanted to really have this conversation because I think as parents, we don't speak of such conversations. We don't speak of such topics enough. And, because again, we don't want to display our weaknesses, or we don't want to go back in the maybe I'm not good enough, or maybe this was not for me. So you do not want to put that mirror in front of you, or you do not want to seem lesser than with your friends or colleagues, so then we just skip it. But I do believe that we have to keep addressing it because it's okay, it's a normal thing. But we have to also be aware that we can put a stop to it, set boundaries, stop comparing and contrasting, and stop putting so much weight on ourselves. If something can go, it can. If it can't, boo-hoo. And it may sound like immature, and it's like, hello, you have to be a parent, you have to be on top of things. Reality check, we are not always on top of things, and we don't have to be always on top of things. I mean, we're not perfect. Perfection is just a trick.
Yes.
I think it's a trick.
Scam.
It's a scam.
It's a scam.
It's a big scam and plot from I do not know who created this perfectionist thing, but we have to be able to go with the flow.
Yeah.
And we can always say, the main goal is to be happy, and you do not need material things to be happy. In some sense, it is true, but in the other, sometimes it helps. It helps by making something possible. I'm just saying, for instance, because we always say, money is not everything. I'm just going to give like a practical example. Like, your kid is celebrating a birthday. I mean, having a birthday cake is something. If you can bake it, okay. If you have the ingredients to bake it, it's even better. But if you don't, I mean, I'm not saying the child is not going to have a good day, but just that extra element, it adds something. Whether it's a cupcake, it doesn't have to be like a 50-kilo cake. It could be a 2-kilo, 3-kilo cupcake. But just, that singing the happy birthday, having that moment, it adds to it. Now, I'm not saying that we have to do it, but I'm just showing that just having that little extra can add something. And then, of course, then you go back to, if I don't have that, like, who am I? Why am I doing this?
Yep.
We always go back to, parenthood is a choice. Like, why did you choose to have children, and then you're going to ill-treat them? And I mean, if I am doing my utmost best, then you have no right to judge me on anything that I'm not doing because you do not approve. Like, I am doing my utmost best. Of course, there is abuse, and of course there is neglect, and that is something totally different.
But I don't think that usually the people doing that are the people that necessarily are feeling this type of guilt, right? I think it usually happens, like this feeling of like mom guilt or parent guilt usually happens to the people who are aware that they are doing their best, right? And they are really trying. And I do think it's important.
Generalize,
I know,
but indeed,
but I do think it's important to say that, because usually the fact that you are having that moment of introspection, even though it might not necessarily based on facts, right? Because you might be saying things to yourself that are not true. The fact that you are doing that is already a form of introspection. You are already, spending some time thinking about, the thing that I'm doing, is it right or not? Is it enough or not? The fact that you are doing
having that moment,
yes, already says something.
A lot.
I'm not saying that, abusive people might not also feel some guilt, probably, but I just want to make it very clear that if you are having these feelings, it usually might be a good sign of you and your brain having some time to assess things. Like, do I want to do things differently next time? Do I want to try out something new? And that's where that comes from. And I think that's also important from like today, that these feelings are like, I want to say normal. It is normal for you to reassess and to have moments to be tired and all of these things and to feel these things. But what I think is very important is that we do talk about it, right? And we do talk about it as a community, as a society, in the sense of like, it's not because I'm not a parent, I don't care about what other parents are going through. We live in a culture that in some things is still very collectivist.
Yeah.
Yet I feel like, and I know it has to do with more people having more than one job, and people are really busy. I understand that, so that makes you a little bit more individualistic, because you just don't have time to do that community.
Or you don't have the space to.
Exactly.
Sometimes you don't have the safe place
but
to do something.
It is important to check in, right? And if you have if you're like me, I'm an auntie, and when I'm asked to step in some way or help out in some way, by all means, my life is not scheduled around a child because I don't have one, right? So in that moment, it almost feels like an inconvenience, and to a certain extent, sometimes it is, because it is not part of my everyday life. But I am also aware that, hey, if I do have the room and space I can
give and help in hand.
Of course.
Yeah,
and
I can help out on
and
that.
you care about these people, right? I mean, hopefully. But but I think that is something where I think it's also important that these conversations, maybe moms are having it together, but I think that, colleagues, also check in. If you hear a colleague maybe saying like, oh, I feel bad because I'm not making it to like pick up their kid or whatever, maybe ask them like, is it a scheduling issue? Like, is it something that, because if you have parents who also feel happy in that sense, it impacts all areas of their lives, right? And I think that we should care more about these issues as a community, because whether we believe it or not, or we think about it or not, it impacts us all. If the people around us who are parents are feeling these guilty feelings, right, and they do not find a way out, usually people give signs, like they will say comments. If you listen to people, they will say things.
Because a lot of times we're not even aware that we're doing it. So then sometimes you just say something, it's like, are you okay? Don't be so hard on yourself, or maybe try this, or you're doing a great job. I am not even noticing anything, and you have that conversation in that moment, and then you continue. Like, I host sister circles, and that is women of all walks of life, and sometimes you get moms in a group, and then this topic comes up, and then you will see but I thought it was only me. And then I'm like, yes, let's have this moment. Because a lot of times we feel that situations are so isolated, and I'm just me, and I'm the worst person ever, because how is this happening to me? But by just being brave enough to mention something, you realize very quickly that you're not alone. And then, of course, that's where you connect, and that's where you exchange numbers. And like, you know what? If maybe you don't have to do it alone, let's do it in a group. And that's how you get things done. I was part of a mother group when I got Nima, and it was fun because we shared, like, breastfeeding tips, and why is this happening to me, and what can I do? Send me a picture, let me see. Send me a video. And for me, it was like, oh, we do this here in Aruba, because again, you see it on TV, and it's like, oh, that's nice to have, but sometimes you don't. I want to stress on this: it's not always family. You don't always have to go to family, because friends can also be very, very helpful. Even strangers, because this group, we were strangers that became friends. And it was so helpful. Because again, maybe I could have reached out to my mom or somebody else, but maybe they didn't breastfeed, or maybe they were not being this radical, because I had a period I was very radical, and I wanted everything to be organic, and I was doing cloth diapers, blah, blah, blah. So then, of course, maybe some people don't understand.
And then you needed people to kind of relate. I needed
people to understand and relate to me and be like, you know what? No, this is okay. Try this. And that is where we have to be more open, and also, most importantly, feel safe to have such conversations, and not have the guilty looks and the because we love to do that. Sometimes we don't say nothing, but our face says it all.
Exactly.
And then what happens? We close down. Like, we shut down. It's like, no, pop. I don't want to have this conversation, because then I'm really being the weirdo. Like, whatever thought I had, and then I tried saying it thinking I was safe, and then by your facial expression, it was like, oh, yeah, no, I'm being weird, and let's just wrap it up.
And I also think that things that you mentioned, like strangers, people from all area of your life, it can be people from like different generations, but it can also be non-parents. Like, sometimes people are like that person is not a parent, and they might not understand. They might not be able to fully understand, but it doesn't mean that they might not be able to rationalize with you.
Exactly.
Right? And sometimes that is something that is necessary, right? Having a friend who's maybe not a parent and just checking in, and having somebody to help you rationalize, something.
Exactly.
Figure out that your schedule maybe is not as crazy as you thought it was. And I think that we have lost that sense of community, where we value different perspectives in our bubble, in our circle, and that we get to create that. And it might look, like you said, it might have a bunch of family in it, it might not, doesn't matter. But the fact that we have lost the ability to connect, even when we might not have the same things in common.
And that weighs heavy, not having a connection, because then again, whether we self-isolate or just feel lonely because we don't have these connections, it just opens a Pandora box.
Yep.
And I think the root of everything, or most things, or most issues in our community, is because we lack connections. Whether we lack, or whether we are not open to create more connections, and we just want to remain in a safe place. Because sometimes in that known safe space is not necessarily always safe. But because we're now willing to open the door and reconnect or find new connections, then we remain in that, and then you get that circle of, okay, I'm back in this again, and that loop, and you just keep looping. So I believe then when it comes to mom guilt, parent guilt, any type of guilt, sometimes tap into your circle, tap into where you feel safe, start there, tap into where you feel safe and genuinely safe. Reflect on, am I safe? Can I really trust this person with this feeling, because if you can't trust the person, and then the person might hurt you more, and then it gets worse. Exactly. And then also by putting yourself out there and having that community, then you can also feel and go as in, am I being healthy? Do I need professional help? Because then you can move on to, no, this is becoming a bit too much. I need that extra help. But because I know we are not so keen on, no, I need help and let's go get it, at least try to surround yourself with loving people and caring people and people who are willing to help or people who are willing to listen. Sometimes you just want to be able to vent. Because I mean, as a parent, as a professional, I know that sometimes I'm just being irrational with certain things, and I am aware. But I just want to be able to express it.
Say it out loud. Yes.
Say it out loud,
yes.
you know?
Yes.
You don't even have to answer me. I just want to be able to say it out loud. And sometimes by listening to myself, it's like, you're being a bit too much. You're doing the most. You're doing the most right now. And then for me, I'm good. And I can continue. And some people need more than that. And then you have that conversation. And then you feel better. Or maybe you don't. And then you have to assess why I don't feel better and what I need in that moment. And you continue. Because again, it's not, we don't get a guide, and I don't care what no one says, even though you have a huge family, whether you come from a very tight-knit family, whether you babysit like 100 children before you had your own. It's still very different when you become a parent. It's so different, you know, and every child is different.
Exactly.
That is something, you know, we say it, but we don't really say it. I mean, I have 2 kids and they're polar opposites.
And that means that how you handle and how you talk to them and how you,
So that I have to deal with them differently. And then maybe the guilt differs per child also.
Yep.
So it's not just one cookie cutter thing. This is not what I feel I'm not doing. Because it comes back to you feel you're not doing well. No one ever tells you like you're not doing well. Unless, I mean, again, it's obvious when we're going into neglect and abuse. That is something different. And even so, we don't tell people. You know, we're very cautious of how we say things.
Yes.
But no one comes out and say, you know what, you suck. I mean, maybe as a teenage mom, you hear it a few times, but that is just the teenage phase, but not necessarily that it's true.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you beat yourself up on something that is not necessarily true. There's no reality to it, or maybe it's not the complete picture. But then here you are feeling horrible because of some narrative that maybe you created.
Yep. And that you are further feeding also, depending on what circles you might be in, or, you know, even if it's like real circles as in people around you, but it can also be like, you know, the media that you consume.
Yeah.
So I would like to think, or I have been told many times, that I am a very rational person. Up until the point where I might come over a little cold sometimes, you know, where I'm just like, yeah, this is it. Like, what do you want me to do about it, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a little bit harder, but an example of how I can see this happening is I sometimes see like family content, and I had this conversation with my niece where she had a conversation with me, and you know, she's like, yeah, I wish my mom could go, you know, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna listen, because she is confiding in me, she's you know, taking the opportunity to tell me something. But then I was like, where are you getting this from? Because I couldn't even relate it to maybe, you know, how my parents were or something. So it didn't feel like something that she's seeing maybe in her like inner circle or whatever. I'm like, where are you getting this from? And then she's like, oh, you know, she was watching like these YouTube families.
Yeah.
And I do not mean this in any way as an offense or whatever, but they were like these big Mormon families. Their lives are very different. Right?
Very different.
And the moment that they have become like influencer families and they are on social media, it's not the real life, you know. There are documentaries about this. It is a tactic and all these things. But we're seeing more and more of those, you know, trad wife type of content and trad families.
Yep.
Which I can imagine for children who have some understanding might be like, why is my mom not making me cereal from scratch? You know?
Listen.
I mean, why?
Don't get me started.
Why don't I have time to make sourdough bread every day, you know, as a parent or whatever? And then I had a moment with her, and I'm like, this is not real. And it might be a harsh conversation because, again, I'm very rational in that moment. So I'm like, this is not real. I'm like, I understand that, you know, you live in the bubble of social media, but change your algorithm. Try to find content that is more relatable.
Yep.
Find Caribbean content. Find maybe Latin content, right? Content that you can see and you can relate to, where you can be like, oh yeah, I can see my grandma here, or I can see my mom here, oh my gosh, my school situation, right? Because you're seeing all of these content that is so foreign, and then you create like a fictional nostalgia to something that you never had and never will have, because
you create a narrative that doesn't exist.
Exactly. But I see a lot of parents following a lot of these family contents, and I am sure a lot of them do give like good tips and stuff, but I do want to encourage people to be a little conscious and practice some like hygiene, social media hygiene in that sense, like
purge. Purge.
Yes, right?
Yep.
Figure out what is truly adding to your life. Like, they really do give good tips which fit my lifestyle. Like, these are tips that, as a working mom, maybe, this is a working mom and she's trying to make life easy. But if you are, two working parents, not millionaires, right? And then you're following some millionaire trad wife, with 6 children, and
anything and everything is possible.
A bunch of people who works at their house that you don't see on the videos, like.
Yeah, I know, I understand. And
no wonder you're feeling a bunch of like guilt, right?
And everything is at our fingertips, and it can be something very positive, but it can be something very toxic as well.
Yep.
It's very easy to say, oh my gosh, but I can do this. Like, I think I have time. And then quickly realize you don't, and then maybe you beat yourself up for that.
Yep. And we all do it. We all do it. I want to say, like, I am, if you have been following me on social media, you would know this. I am very obsessed with Halloween. It is my favorite season of the year, and I very much decorate and stuff. Like, early on, I grew up with it. My parents moved to Aruba from the U.S., so they came, like, I literally grew up with this, right? This is, like, the peak of, like, holiday season. And, growing up, like, my mom would go, like, really all out. Like, our house basically became like a haunted house, and it was super fun. Now I have my house, and I'm like, I want to do this too, right? Yeah.
Tell me how that's
totally. And then I quickly realized when we moved, like my mom didn't buy all her decorations. Like the first year, you collect stuff.
Exactly.
It takes time for you to have that amount of like cute ghosts or whatever, right? It takes time for you to have like all of the cute pillows, and you can just go one day. I mean,
and just be like, I want this,
and poof, my house is fully. So I have come to peace with that. Where like, okay, I acquire stuff every year, and some years I change some stuff out, but I am aware that by the time that I have memory, so like vivid memory, maybe I'm like 10 years old. My mom has been collecting stuff for years, right? Since she moved here, because obviously they didn't bring that much stuff when they moved here. So that is one. But also, I also go online, and the algorithm knows me well. So
then
So I see all these really cute content, like stuff to do on your porch and stuff, and I get so upset. And then I'm like, I will be looking at it, and I try to rationalize it real quick, and I'm like, no, Aruba's like super windy, like you can't do that here.
You can't do that,
right? And then I see something else,
and
then
send you so much because I have some DIYs.
And I get upset because I'm like, I also want to have like the entry to my house like that, and I'm like, can't do that. And then I'm like, I wish I could do that, but I'm like, that's gonna mean repairs, and I can't, like, going into the store and do stuff like here is not the same as there.
No.
So I keep going through this.
The prices are not the same.
Yeah, exactly. The prices are not the same. Like, they're like, oh, here's this thing you can do with, $5. And I'm like, when I find this stuff here, and I'm like, yeah, no. It's not $5 for me.
No.
But I found myself, like, telling my husband, I'm like, I feel like, and it probably is true, I feel like if we were living somewhere that was not as hot and not as windy, I would probably be a different person. And it is true, right? I would be I would spend more time outdoors doing DIYs probably, right? But then, like, for a quick second, I was like, almost like, do I wish I was living? Like, am I upset about my life? No.
No.
But
But sometimes you
seeing
have
all
the
this
what if.
cute stuff.
I mean, what if is normal. I mean,
Yeah, like
what
can I go there
if?
for fall in Salem? Like, you know, just for the fall. Like,
Yeah, no, I mean, and
Yeah.
all of that is things that we go through daily, and it
Yes.
doesn't have to be, again, exclusively because you're a parent, you know. On a daily, any little thing can be triggering, as in, what if?
yeah.
What if?
Like, am I
But
doing
think
this right? Is
I
this
think we
fulfilling
feel
enough? Yeah.
more inclined to focus on parenting.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It is a big deal.
And because whether you know you say it out loud or not, it is directly impact the life of somebody else. So
It is. It
yes,
is a
there
big
should be a
deal.
level of extra awareness, right?
But
Yeah.
but we are human, and we have to give ourselves the grace
Yeah.
to go through stuff. You know, the same way that I am a parent for like 16 years, what I know now, I did not know 10 years ago. And maybe not even yesterday, because you learn every day. So if you give yourself the grace and the space to be open to learn, and be open and be aware that, you know what, I am going to make mistakes, and I am sadly enough going to be judged by others. But if you don't care, like, you know, I don't know how you implement that in your life, but you know what, there's certain things that I just should not place so much importance on. You know, and as a parent, I teach that to my kids as well. You know, we are going to be different in certain things. I am not going to be able to do everything you see other parents doing.
Exactly.
Because whether I can't or whether I just simply don't want to.
And that's
I
fair.
am allowed to not want to. I am
Exactly.
allowed to not wanting to leave my kids participate in that thing because I don't believe in it, or I don't trust it, or I just don't find it that they need to do that. And it's okay. I mean, if you want to side eye me, side eye me. I
Like,
could care less.
one of those examples, like what you said, right? It's also important to, you know, even though you might be processing that guilt, also knowing like your own boundaries or what you're willing or capable to do, and not just financial. But an example of that, like my niece, for example, she was looking at the Mormon content, and they also talk about like going to church and church community and stuff like that, and it almost sounded like she would like something like that. And then, you know, I was like, you know, this is like a very personal, peculiar thing that you might have to have a conversation with your mom. This is not big in our family. Like, it's non-existent, really. And I'm not saying that you know, that means that maybe she's not allowed to like explore that or whatever, but also realizing of like, you know, like that is where, for example, I draw my support line, where I'm not gonna be the one who's gonna take you to like a Mormon church, or you know, or something. Like it's not what I'm gonna do.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
And if her mom says
it's
no
okay
to-
for her to be mad as well.
Yes.
That no one is doing it's all okay.
And then maybe they're not even mad because we did have a conversation about it, and she's like, you know, like, and then she asked me, she's like, did you guys like ever have like religion or whatever? And then we had a whole conversation about it, and it was very interesting. And then you also get to like the core. So for her, the whole thing was the idea of like community and feeling of like, and then I explained to her, like, you know, different people find that in different places.
Yeah.
Some people find it in church, some people find it in like social clubs, some people find it in like their own family or, you know, hobby clubs or whatever. And it's important for you to take this time, and you know, when you are young,
and see
figure
what,
it out.
what community you want to be part of.
Yes.
Or build your own community.
But I can imagine somebody being like in that moment, like, oh my gosh, like, should we feel bad? And again, because thank goodness, I am so happy that, you know, with my parents, we have so many conversations that I did, and no moment like even budge in that moment feeling like, oh my gosh, should we feel bad because we're not part of any like religious denomination or whatever. But I can imagine that some parents might be like, imagine if like you did grow up, like, you know, Aruba has a lot of Catholic people, for example. Maybe you grew up going to like church on Sundays, let's say, and you went to like all the big, you know, happenings, and then your kid says something like that, and then you're like, I have not like introduced my child to this thing that was part of my, you know, upbringing, and And then you're like going down
And
that
the
spiral.
expectation of, you know what, and then maybe you have a family member saying, you know what, I told you. And, you know, and it's, and I mean, because like I was, as a mom, I'm not big on sleepovers. And I have
Yeah, my parents were not big on sleepovers either.
my whole, I think a whole document on why I'm not doing it, and I could care less who tell me, but it's fun and it's, no. You know, I know things that a lot of y'all don't know, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep it to myself because I have to, but I'm not going to expose my kids to that.
No.
I'm very sorry. And I do understand because my daughter this year, she had a sleepover for her birthday, and maybe you call me biased because like, hey, you're not going to... But and I do understand if you as a parent will tell me no because I am that parent as well. But if you trust me, hey, I'm gonna be a mama cub, and if you want me to video, and I will do all of that for you. But again, I know what I stand for, so I understand and I respect others for having that same thing. And I think sometimes that is what we lack as well, as you know, just being parents and saying things is like, oh, but you're being crazy. Like, you know, I did that, and yeah, you did that, or maybe it works for you, but it might not work for me. And we have to be okay by respecting others' wishes, because sometimes that can create that the person feels bad. Like, you know what, I am adamant, like, you know, I don't want this for my kid, but then I'm having a whole conversation with you and it's going perfectly, so then maybe I'm the problem. You know, maybe I'm overreacting. And then you have all those questions. So sometimes we have to be supportive in different ways, as in, don't just...
Not imposing, right?
Don't impose on others. You know, we don't all have to parent the same way. We just do need a space to whether vent or run ideas along each other, but we are not going to impose, we are not going to disrespect, and we are definitely not going to judge. Because again, everyone has a different upbringing, a different mindset, a different past, and I'm talking about triggers, traumas, all of that. That
or like you said, maybe your job exposes you to information that other people are not privy to, and that might, even if you had like a perfect upbringing and you are a very like, I don't know, positive person or whatever, and then you might learn of something and that makes you skeptical, and maybe the people around you will be like, but why, if we grew up so open, and you know,
and it's like, because again, I'm saying there's no book, there's no manual, there's no prescription, you know, subscribe, and
you will figure it out in a week.
Figure it out, like, you know, this month's topic, and everyone's gonna be dealing with this same exact problem. You know, there's none of that, and you have to. We are just trying, literally figuring it out. You know, and I tell my kids, you know what? Sometimes I do not know. And it may sound weird because I'm supposed to know. I don't. We can try to figure it out together. Like, you know, let's Google. Let's find something. Because I don't know. I will have to ask. Or I genuinely don't feel okay with that. And sometimes I play the gut card because I'm all into my intuition. I mean, you know what? This doesn't feel good. You know, I had that recently. My daughter had to travel for sports. And I told her, you know what? Everything was going well, and then all of a sudden I got this gut feeling like, you know what, this is not going to happen. How do you explain that you're going on a gut feeling? And I felt so bad. You know, I run it by everyone around me, and it was like, you know what, Nicole, you're a person that is so in tune with your gut. I mean, this is not the time to be like, you know, no, I'm just going to wing it, because I'm not a wing it person.
Yeah, me neither.
So I was just, you know what, we had to sit her down, and, you know, I had my partner there, you know, as more support, and we were like, you know what, I don't feel good about this. You know, I kind of feel like the Twilight Zone. I'm sorry, but I don't feel good about it. And then, you know, I got the side eyes and the silent treatment for some time.
Of course.
And it sucked. But I'm happy I did it, you know, and I'm happy, and I'm standing on it, and I'm happy. And I know, and I told her, like, you know, you will have more opportunities, and maybe that was my bad, and I will take the L for that. But trust and believe. I believe that you'll do better, and you'll have more opportunities, and this will all be behind you very soon, and I'll be the best mom again someday, and we'll be okay. Because sometimes you have things that you can explain, and sometimes you have things that you can't explain, and you just need them to trust you.
Exactly. I have to say, Nicole, thank you so much for bringing that up, because my mom was very much like that too. And they had like this rule where they would like really try to explain things, and they really created a space for me to question, for me to, but sometimes it just like my mom just had like bad jujus, like she was like,
I had a dream.
She will still. I'm an
that
adult.
mom. I'm that mom.
I'm an adult, and she will call me up, and she's like, "Is everything fine?" Blah 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 blah. And I said, "Cause I had," and I'm like, "Okay, ma," like because I know like I don't want her to put that in my brain too, and then I'm like hyper vigilant or whatever. But sometimes I would laugh because she would say something, and I would like text her, right? And I'm like, "Hey, brujita," like
hey, it is what it is.
So listen, this happened, or something came up or whatever. But as an adult now, I enjoy it more. But when I was younger,
it was
as
annoying.
a teen,
it was annoying.
like if you tell me that I can't go, or you don't like this friend or this person because
you have a
vibe, right? Yeah. And I'm like, that's irrational.
Now,
she's not the irrational.
You know how important vibes are.
Yes, I do, and I appreciate her for like also trusting that, right? Because like you said, it comes from within, from something. It's a connection that is...
Some things you can explain, and it's okay. Because, we don't have to explain everything. And if you notice that it's working for you, and it's working for you, then let it work.
Right?
Let it work. Yeah, again, I'm very honest. Maybe I'm a weirdo, we're not going to be the family that is going to just be doing things because we saw it and we just know. We're going to analyze, and mommy is going to have gut feelings, and I'm going to have little dreams, and I'm going to have a little icky feeling about something. And
something,
you don't have to agree with me. And, when you leave my household, then you can wing it, and you can free fall, and you can have all of that. I respect you, and I know I will encourage you in that, because for me it will be fun. Like, oh, look at you freewheeling things. I could never, but hey, so I understand that. But right now, under my roof, mommy's gonna be that one. Mommy's gonna be a little brujita, and it's okay.
Ma, if you're listening.
Because if I don't feel good, I'm not going to go, because then again, imagine how worse I would feel if actually something happens and it's like you knew it and you did. Oh no, I cannot.
Exactly.
I cannot live with that. So we're gonna just be honest, and whatever happens, and we're gonna get over it. I trust and believe every parent out there, if you're listening, parent, non-parent, anything that you're going through, if you made a mistake, trust and believe you learn from it. And if you do it again, you learn from it another time. And if it takes longer for you to learn from it, then so be it. But ultimately, you'll do fine. You'll get to the point where you rectify everything and you're more comfortable in your skin by doing certain things. Sometimes it's not necessarily a mistake. Sometimes it's just something you had to learn. Because not because you're learning for something that means it's a mistake. It's just you had to learn from it in that period of time. So don't be so hard on yourself. And we do not have it figured out, and nor pretend to have it figured out. I think that is, do not. Let's stop pretending to think that we know everything and that we are the best parents ever, because sometimes we are not, and it's okay, because we're human beings and it's trial and error. Everything in life is trial and error, even your job, your relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, everything is trial and error. You try something, it didn't go well, you try something different until you find your Maya, and this is your Maya, and okay, and then this is what we're going to do until you find something else that doesn't work out, and then you're going to figure it out. And that is parenthood. Of course, there's different departments that can assist us with certain things.
Make use of them.
A shift of mindset, of maybe it's just a conversation you have to have that gives you a different perspective. So we have that as well. So whether it's departments that can give you little tips, we have like that helps parents, that is focused on parents. Hey, don't be ashamed to call. Don't be ashamed to reach out. Sometimes you just need to have that conversation. Sometimes you just need a tip. Sometimes you just need a validation and reassurance that you are going okay. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you need it as well, and it's not bad. It's not tooting your own horn. Sometimes you need but you're doing perfect. Okay,
the little pat on the back.
Thank you, and let me continue. Sometimes you need that, and then sometimes you need more. Sometimes you need a therapist. Sometimes you need medication, and it's okay. Mm-hmm. Because again, everyone has their path, and everybody is is their own person. I mean, everybody, you are your own individual person. And it doesn't matter which family you come from, what heritage you have. If you want to start anew, you're allowed to.
Exactly.
If you are, let's say, like we were talking about religion, if you come from like, a very religious family and you don't want to introduce your children to religion, it's okay. It's okay. I have family members that, we started there, and then afterwards they became parent, and they say, when my kids are 18, they're going to choose what they want to do. And it's okay. We're not going to force. We're not going to do that, because again, you want the person to feel safe, and you want them to feel okay with their decision. It's not me. It's
and
not.
support them in that process, right?
Exactly.
Even if you might not necessarily agree or whatever, as long as they are not causing harm, support parents and their choices, right? Just like you said, not judging.
Anything.
If anything, be a listening ear. If you can provide some context, great. If you can provide some support, great. And if not, just also allowing them to be.
It can be something that is against all you stand for. It can. And then you have to be honest and say, you know what, I would not surround myself in that situation, or, walk away. Because again, that is that parent trial and error period. And that's their moment to have that lesson. And maybe it works out perfectly for them, or maybe they learn like, hey, that was maybe not the right choice. But that's their learning curve. You are not supposed to impose. We are not here to impose on anyone. We are supposed to be very supportive, and like how you say, in a collective form, as in just being there for the person and allowing each person to go through what they are supposed to go through. We are not here to cast judgment on anyone. We are not here to make anyone feel lesser than. That is not what we're here for. I believe that we were not put on earth to just sit here and judge people, or sit here and just make people feel worse of themselves. I strongly believe that we were not here to do that.
No.
I mean, whatever you believe in, if you believe in a God, you believe in a universe, if you believe in cats, if you believe in aliens, whatever you believe in, I do not believe that whoever brought you here brought you here to just be harmful towards anybody else. Like, I mean, come on. That is sinister. That get it out of your mind.
Nicole, thank you so much for ending this conversation on such a great note. No, but I'm serious. I mean, it is good because it's something not to do to others, but don't do it to yourself either, right? Thank you so much for this conversation. It was really nice. It was very, I enjoyed it.
I hope we started a trend within households, within group chats, within tribes, within churches, within...
Talk about it.
Just talk about it. Just have this conversation with parents, non-parents, because we are all one and we need each other. It takes a community.
Thank you so much. I hope to see you again on Sincerely Carolina. And
I'm always available.
Thank you. I just want to say I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. I am not a parent, but I did feel that a lot of things that we talked about today applies to all areas of life. So I hope that you could find yourself in that too. Remember, if you catch this episode towards the end, do not worry. If you caught, that's a word. You see, it's just me going through all the languages. But yeah. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube of Cool FM, Sincerely Carolina. Find us on your favorite podcasting platform like Apple Podcasts and Spotify on Tuesday. Danke umbiyaha mas. I-episode aki at turned out to be fully in English. Manera mi tamen siya na ako bibiyahan no sa purba diha si episodyo ng ding lingwahe ng comfortable pa itopiko ipanos gas. So that is what we did today. I will see you again next week. Have a nice Saturday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to my awesome sponsors for allowing me to talk about whatever I want to talk about. I appreciate you. Thank you to Toto, to La Roche-Posay, and to Gain. Y'all are awesome. Anyways, see y'all next time. Thank you so much. Bye. Hi, I'm Carolina, and I am the host of Sincerely Carolina, a series of educational conversations about current social issues with local and international experts. Make sure you tune in every Saturday on Cool FM from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Bye.
Financiamento segura y rápido. Préstamo pago autónomo, préstamo personal para deseo nada. Comienza la fácil. compañía local. Financiamiento fácil y rápido. Your finances, total control.
Hey, bumarka ng favorito e yung premyo ta guardabo ku e P&G Beauty Festival.